condition, especially in the wartime. Now, a few words about the company itself. It includes TV channels, and all of those channels are in free packages, in free TV and other packages. And Ukrainian radio, it is the largest radio in the country. No other broadcaster has such coverage as Ukrainian radio. It can be listened on FM waves throughout the country as of today in 190 locations, as well as on AM waves, several transmitters. The radio can be listened to anywhere, even where there is no electricity and communications. Especially for people under occupation, radio was in fact the only source of information. Uh, about the radios, some special things is AM band. Because having AM band, you can listen to the transmitters which are out of the country. After the massive damage to the country's power system, the technical capability of broadcasting was provided in the master control room and in the regional branches, even sometimes in manual mode. I hope you know what that means. As of the autumn of 2022, 23 radio and 26 TV transmitters remained in the newly occupied territories of Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Lugansk, and Kherson. Technologically, before the war, we have created a reserve broadcasting center, which made it possible not to stop broadcasting in case of damage or seizure of the master control room. We have prepared two teams of personnel, manned and reserve, which are directed to the reserve broadcasting center, and two more teams, manned and reserve again, which remained in Krishchatik in Kyiv, because they were preparing materials from the archives, from the record libraries, and so on. Krishchatik in Kyiv did not stop working through the time of invasion until today. But it was conserved and left to the emergency teams, and those teams worked 3 days after 3. Logistics in the conditions of war is disrupted, so you cannot come to work in the morning and leave it in the evening, as every one of us do it when there is no war. If a person couldn't get to work, he or she worked for 3 days. The human factor is the most important in work conditions. It is connected with the ability to react and act in emergency conditions, the ability to make crisis decisions, work overtime and again work overtime and in difficult conditions. Within a day after the first bombing, we launched reserve broadcasting, not stopping broadcasting for a minute. We organized command logistics to another regional center. Content-wise, we switched 3 channels to Ukrainian radio because we had 3 channels: Radio Promen, Radio Kultura, and Radio Ukraine itself. We switched them all to 1 channel and broadcasted all over Ukraine. Thus, we have increased the number of transmitters by 150%. And the map of radio coverage covered the territory of the country even more, including the most remote and smallest settlements, where Ukrainian radio was actually the only one media. Content-wise, in the first days of the war, we created around-the-clock information marathon to promptly inform the population. The working team that provided broadcasting in the first weeks after the full-scale invasion was only 22 people. To compare, there were 630 people in the staff before the war at that time. Most of the staff was on downtime for at least 3 months. The important moment of working during the war, as for me, is cooperation with other broadcasters. I mean the EBU. Thanks to the EBU members, we received lots of equipment from partners to repair, replace, and launch broadcasting in cities where the equipment was completely destroyed or damaged. Medium frequencies. The company has launched 4 medium wave transmitters, thanks to which, even in the absence of any communication, a large territory of the country, including the temporarily occupied territories and close abroad, can hear Ukrainian radio in AM band. What challenges we really have been faced? The first and the biggest one is physical damage of TV and radio towers. In the event of a hit of the RRT tower, we negotiate with commercial broadcasters who switched their broadcasting equipment to our frequencies, or we bring them our transmitters and they install it on their own tower and the broadcaster's own place. For example, in Mariupol, the staff could not get even to the working place. We jammed the signal through the line of Kyivstar mobile operator to other place. When the transmitter went off, we switched it to a commercial channels, and in Kherson, again, how it happened. The transmitter worked for 2 weeks after the beginning of the occupation. The occupiers turned on their own transmitter on our tower, but they could not find another one, the Ukrainian radio transmitter, for more than 2 weeks. Thanks to this, Ukrainian radio was the only source of information in the already occupied territory, and people could hear information about humanitarian corridors, about other things they really needed. Repairing the technical equipment, ensuring the work of the team, it is very important. And the challenge is broadcasting from the shelter, because you have to stay in the shelter, to live in the shelter, to work in the shelter, and to transmit from the shelter. Then moving facilities and personal organization of personal work, the delivery of the signal in the absence of the power grid. So we had to receive and switch on several electrical lines at the facility and provide the guaranteed power supply using UPS and installing generators with a fuel reserve. We connect Starlink and fiber optical cables. We use signal delivery via satellite, and at the time when mobile communications and mobile internet disappeared, we relied on walkie-talkies, fixed IP phones, and even returned to the forgotten and archaic methods of direct communication using copper cables that do not require high-tech equipment and electricity. So the content also changed. Out of 3 full-fledged radio broadcasting channels, we left the only one, but did it really nationwide one. Radio Promin switched to music 2 months after full-scale invasion. Radio Cultura has been partially broadcasting since June. Now it has 5 hours of airtime on weekends. In this hard situation, we all are sincerely grateful to our colleagues, to other public broadcasters of other countries, for all the help we received in such a difficult time, for every resource, for every device, and every support. Thank you.
Yevheniy, do you have time just for a couple of questions, or do you need to dash off?
Of course,
Okay, let me. Who's got a?
until we have electricity and internet.
Okay. Who's got a question for Yevheniy? Just while we wait, I was going to ask, how's it affecting you? You've talked about the levels of staffing you're now coping with and everything that you're. How are you coping?
A war brings changes in what you expect from people. And it was unexpected for me that most of the team didn't left job. They were scared, but understood that they are the only team in the country that could bring the real information to the people under occupation. That's it.
Question down here. You can't see us now. The technology's gone down our end because I've kicked the camera over. Right. There we go.
Hi, Matt from GFM in Somerset. Thanks for joining us today. I wanted to know whether you are able to get any feedback from listeners, and if so, how does that affect the morale of the guys doing the work in your hidey holes there?
When there is no internet and there is no connection, of course, during the war, you have less feedback. But when the territories are deoccupied, lots of people said on camera and wrote to us on Facebook that they are thankful and that Ukrainian radio was the really only part of the Ukraine under occupation. But the quantity of them I cannot count. Lots.
What might you learn from this in terms of when things return to, open inverted commas, normal? What lessons from how you've had to work will be useful for the long term, do you think?
As one of my colleagues, engineers, says, radio is the science of reservation. So getting in such circumstances, you got to understand that the more reserving you do in a peaceful time, the less headache you have during the war.
A simple lesson and one we'll come back to. Yevheniy Chyzh from Suspilne, the public service broadcaster in Ukraine. You have our respect. Thank you.